centers in the United States, in many other Western society, actually they fall into a false illusion. They feel if I train some of the Chinese transplant doctors, if they sign the pledge, they will not do this kind of crime against humanity when they back to China. Just like the false hope that China will keep their promise when they join WTO. Same situation. They just believe the Chinese doctor will follow this ethic rule when they back into China under the Communist Party's pressure, or when they enter into this system that can become a huge profitable business for any hospital engaged in this organ transplant. So I think this is a huge duty for international society to openly scrutinize this operation that many of the foreigners go to China and for organ tourism. So I think the US and many of the Western society need a strict organ registration system and also organ donation registration for people doing organ tourism into China. And at the same time, I think we need to realize that China has been committing crimes against humanity very systematic for decades. Even the 1959 to 1961, more than 30 million people were killed by the Communist Party. So this is not a surprise for them.
This is very much part of their program, no question about it. Tenzin, it was mentioned earlier that this is International Religious Freedom Day, and many of the people in this program have, I know, experiences of religious persecution at the hands of the Chinese Communist Party. This has been particularly a focus of effort against the Dalai Lama and the Tibetan Buddhist community. Could you speak very quickly to the current state of the oppression of the people of Tibet on religious grounds, among others, and in particular, the impact that that's had on the Dalai Lama and his leadership of the country? You're muted, I think, Tenzin. Nope. Try again. There you go.
Okay. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. It's wonderful to hear all you guys stimulating my brain, because I'm very familiar with all your tragedies and what you have been, because I've been in China watching the last 30 years. So when you guys talk about your experience, it confirms what I know and what we have suffered as a community. So the Chinese government, their ultimate goal is to eradicate our identity, our rights, our human rights, and that's their ultimate goal. So as far as that Frank was saying that the Tibetans, to me, the Tibetan Buddhism is probably the most peaceful Buddhist in the world, probably, by culture or by Tibetan. Yet the Chinese are threatened by this very peaceful practice. We even don't want to hear an insect, but Chinese somehow they get scared. And up to now, since 2009, there are more than 155 Tibetans self-immolated. More than 155. And they have never hurt a single building, never hurt a single Chinese, never, damaged any property. They just self-immolated. What they were demanding is freedom. Freedom that they meant full Tibetan independence that they are looking for. So as far as the religion that Frank was talking about, although the Tibetan Buddhism has been very, very peaceful, I practice it, and my family practice it. Almost 99% of the Tibetans practice Tibetan Buddhism. But there's no threat as far as we just do a simple, religion. But Chinese are systematically they are controlling the population of the how many people are in the monastery. What age? They have a high. They set up the test so high, most of them they usually fail. And then usually what kind of textbooks they have to listen. They have to get permission from the Chinese government. Which Lama or which Rinpoche is going to give teachings. And of course there's no any teaching of Dalai Lama.
Let me turn to one of our other speakers very quickly, and then I'm going to ask Brian Kennedy to say a final word. Thanks and farewell. Morgan, you touched on this in your remarks, and I want to just come back to it because it does seem as though it's part and parcel of this, colonial enterprise of the Belt and Road Initiative, and that is moving large numbers of Chinese nationals into the countries that they are in the process of enslaving. Would you talk about what that has done to the culture, the communities, the sovereignties of these nations in Africa where it's been taking place?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, it happens to various different levels of extremity. If you look at what's happening in Kenya here, you find isolated communities of Chinese workers that are surrounding the projects they're working on. By far and large, the Chinese don't employ local contractors or local workers, so the money that comes from these loans, that comes from, and oftentimes from the government itself, goes straight back into Chinese pockets and into these isolated communities. Now, if we go over to somewhere like South Sudan, or we go over into somewhere where it's even more easy for the Chinese to take advantage of the local population and government, you'll see them creating their own cities surrounding these areas. The Chinese in Africa don't have a reputation of being the most friendly with the local population. They're quite racist, they're quite violent, they're quite aggressive, they're quite exploitative. So it creates some really challenging social situations, particularly surrounding the infrastructure projects they're constructing. And it isolates them there. And there's also the element of the Chinese workers that are over being prisoners or having their passports taken away from them, or in some way, shape, or form not being able to leave those sites. You'll see quite a few businesses that have started up in places like South Sudan from Chinese workers that would very much like to have gone home, but they just couldn't go home. So they started their own restaurant there, they started a supermarket, they started something, whatever it might be. But that's, they were dumped there just as much as the host community wasn't very happy with them being dumped there. So it all goes back to the government.
Morgan, thank you very much. We are at the end of our time. I want to say a personal word of thanks to everyone who's participated for presenting sort of a tableau of a very, very important challenge to the world, not just to the freedom-loving parts of it, but the people who wish to enjoy freedom. It's vital that your voices be heard, and those of the people that you represent. The Committee on the Present Danger of China is committed to trying to help amplify those voices and to actually develop and implement strategies for countering what the Chinese Communist Party is up to. With that, let me turn it over to Brian Kennedy to say his own concluding remarks, and my thanks to you, Brian, for your leadership, as always.
Well, thank you, Frank, and thank you for all your energy in organizing all these things. I have to say how deeply impressed I am with everybody that was part of all this, and it was an honor to be with you here today. You truly are freedom fighters, and someone made the comment that you wondered why the Chinese Communist Party felt threatened by you. And the reason was, it's because you believe in freedom. You speak and talk like free men and women. And that's the thing that the Chinese Communist Party simply cannot tolerate. They cannot tolerate someone taking a stand as a free human being. And I was especially pleased by Joyce Ho. I sent Frank a text message with a Joyce Ho with an exclamation point, because I was very impressed by that spirit. Resist. We here in America, we need to understand we have to fight. Fight you who are subject to their and so let me thank all of you for all you do. It's an honor to be with you. We should have given this 8 hours in Washington, D.C. I hope we can do that sometime very soon in person. So thank you, Frank, and thank you everyone for being part of what we do.
Thank you. Thank you and good night, everybody. Bless you.